So we're talking about some cutting edge IT training. Some of you are already doing some of these things, but maybe not all of these things. I do represent Ascend Education, but I'm also a college instructor. So a little bit about me, as I mentioned, since 2011 I've been teaching, teaching at the collegiate level. Started out at Portland Community College, and then every once in a while I also get calls from other colleges that say, hey, we're short on teachers, would you please help us out? And so there's a couple other colleges that I occasionally will fill in for as well. But at the time I had started teaching, I also had an IT consulting company. And so once I started teaching, I realized, well, I had this IT consulting company like 17 years. So in 2017, I actually went ahead and sold it and started in the education field full time. So besides teaching, I have been creating LinkedIn Learning videos. If you have ever seen a LinkedIn Learning video course, a plural site, and some other ones as well. But I've got about 100 courses out there as I've been creating since 2015. And so about 3 years ago, I got introduced to Ascend Education. And Ascend Education, because I was teaching one of the classes, and I thought, wow, this is so much better than what we're doing. We should, definitely get this into more places, and since I was now filling in at a couple other colleges as well, I got to tell everybody about this. And so I finally contacted the head of Ascend Education, and I said, I got to be a part of your organization. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet, but I got to be a part of it. So I met Rocky Steele, which is an awesome name. And then I met Jake Slater, and I said, are you guys WWE superstars, or are you an education? And then there's Meg Adamson, who is, Adamson is a Viking warrior name, so we have our Viking warrior princess, who also here as well. And so it's been a very exciting 3 years as I've been doing course development for Ascend Education. So let's go on to our next one. You are probably aware of the traditional IT training. That's how I started out in 2011, back in the dark ages. Sometimes we refer to that as the before time, anytime before 2020. Physical book. We had an 800-page book for my very first class. I didn't pick it, it was already picked. And how do you carry this 800-page book around, especially if you need to fly someplace? Then we also had installing VirtualBox and VMware Workstation on our students' computers. Is anybody still doing that? Yeah, a little bit. Okay, all right. So the problem with the installing the VirtualBox and VMware or any other virtual, even Hyper-V, is that the students have to have a higher-end computer, right? They have to have at least 16 gigs. I mean, they could get away with 8, but when I started, I think we were using 4, 2 sometimes. They have to have SSD drives in order to get decent speed. They have to have virtualization on in their laptop. So the student ends up having to purchase a much more expensive computer than they would otherwise have to do in modern teaching. So then, of course, we had on-campus lectures. So on-campus lectures, that's pretty much all we did in the before time. And then we started moving our way towards Zoom classes. How many of you teach on Zoom? Yeah, that's I figured. After 2020, that was a pretty common thing. So let's go on this one. There we go. Labs, quizzes, and other work presented on paper and manually graded. I went to another school for some meeting, not the one where we teach, but another school just a few years ago. And in this meeting, it was like a department meeting. I don't even know why they asked me to be there, but we had this department meeting, and I saw one of the instructors there. He was, grading, and I said, "You're grading on paper?" He said, "Oh yeah, I still grade on paper. This is the IT, instruction. It's this computer science or computer information systems, and they were still using paper. I think they still are to this day for grading on paper." Traditional IT training also includes a lot of underpaid. Who's underpaid? Anybody? What? Some of you are paid well enough. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. We have a good union, but one of the problems is, and I think this is just an oversight, is in our area of expertise, everything turns over every 3 years. So if like as a high school student, let's say you go to college, you go to work, for my company, and then you come in and you say, I used to work in IT, and then I took a break to go sell lemonade for a few years, and now I'm back in IT. You'd be like, 3 years, you got to start all over again. Go back, take some classes, get your certs updated, and then we will talk. But what we find is that we have, as instructors and professors, we have to go in and redo or upgrade our class from say 2016 to 2019. Now we're upgrading from 2019 to 22, for our Windows Server classes. And the same thing happens with Linux and all the other IT types of courses. They forgot to pay us for that. A lot of times we either do it for nothing or we get paid so little it's below minimum wage. We have to rely on grants just to get paid to upgrade our classes because there's no mechanism, to pay us for that. And that's a real problem because you get, professors that are trying to keep their classes going and then plan for the future. It takes a good 6 months to properly upgrade a course. It's not an overnight, kind of a thing. And we do it in teams. I'm sure you're all aware of that. We do them in teams, and everybody gets their own, types of thing they're supposed to do. And then the last team that we had, one of our guys dropped out before he finished it, so of course it put a huge amount of stress on the rest of us. Then you have outdated equipment. I got to ask, does anybody here have a server room with servers that you use for classes in your college or in your organization? It's expensive to buy, it's expensive to keep. We have one college up in Vancouver called Clark College. They bought what's called NetLab, hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy, 6 figures every year to manage, and everybody's always complaining about it. But once they got kind of involved,
you got to rely on donations.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah,
you
got to have a
budget
good
is so out of whack.
You got to have a good grants department. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. So modern IT training methods a little different. We're using ebooks now instead of physical books. Ascend Education will also integrate into your LMS. Now the 3 most popular ones that I'm aware of anyways, Moodle, Canvas, and Brightspace. Anybody using anything other than that?
Blackboard's pretty
Blackboard.
popular.
Oh yeah, we used to use Blackboard years ago, but it's kind of fallen out of favor a little bit in our area. As a matter of fact, Washington State has gone 100% Canvas. And so Oregon is trying to do the same thing, but I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon.
California's pretty much there too.
Oh, is it? Okay. So, Black, do you use the Blackboard?
I actually use Canvas. I'm just familiar with Blackboard.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
We
have
use
Blackboard too, right?
Alaska.
Yeah.
What's that?
We use Blackboard.
Oh, in Alaska. Okay. So our courses do integrate with. I just checked with the Viking Warrior Princess, and she said that we do integrate just fine. All right, cool. So use labs in the cloud, both live and simulate. So live labs, obviously you're given like a desktop and you're told to go ahead and go through all these different steps, set up Active Directory if it's a Windows Server class like in what I teach or whatever it is that you're asking your students to do. And then there's the test out way of doing it, the more simulated type of labs. That's the kind you're using, right? Mm-hmm. Has anybody used test out? Okay, so you're familiar with test out,
yeah.
But not everybody else. Maybe you can explain how test out is different from a live lab. What do you do in test out?
Yeah, so test out has you watch a video, there's some fact sheets you read, and then it gives you a simulated environment with a lot of fences around and says, okay, here's your, on the left side, here's your list of tasks, and on the right you have your simulated environment. And you can't really, there's some things you can do, some things you can't, but it kind of steers you a little bit towards accomplishing their goal, then you hit score and it grades it for you.
Yeah, that's a great way of explaining it. I have used, or just as a demonstration, the one where you have a bunch of Ethernet cables and you're supposed to plug them into like either a switch or a firewall, and you drag and you drop them over. Yeah. Whereas the live labs it's just like somebody built you an operating system or several operating systems, and you're told what to do with them, which is a little bit different. So the labs in the cloud are a lot better because now you don't have to worry about those students having to purchase, more expensive computers. You could use a Chromebook, you could use a tablet if people still use those nowadays. I don't even know. You could use a Mac, of course, and Linux, all those different things. And then, of course, most of our classes are, I think it's over 90% now are online. Is that pretty accurate? You think? Yeah. Are online, and then quizzes, midterm, and finals are graded automatically. Great, no more paper stuff, right? So if we go to labs, now labs are still one of those things that are mostly graded manually. And if you have 50 students, 75 students, and you have a lot of labs, that could take a lot of time. So we now have the ability to grade those labs automatically for you. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to stick with that. You could, still use the live labs, and you could, make changes to the labs as they are, and you could grade them manually if you prefer it that way. But there is that automated, mechanism that we have to make that work. Courses designed for professors and teachers that cost about the same as the. This is probably the biggest complaint or concern I have when I talk to other people about buying an Ascend package, because the Ascend package includes, and tell me if I'm wrong here, the ebook, of course, the slides, the quizzes, the midterm, the final, and then the labs, and the videos. Oh yes, videos. A lot of the videos are done by yours truly. So it includes an entire package. Now, if you have, you just sell the student the book, and you make them buy a high-end, computer in order to, connect to whatever it is they're doing, then you end up possibly spending more by the students if you look at the big picture. But what's the average price, say for the A+, course? $139. So it's really not that much more, but again, if you look at the big picture, overall, it's going to be a lot less expensive. You don't have to have, the same kind of infrastructure when you have the infrastructure already in place. What is the infrastructure? So a lot of these companies that we use for these labs are using AWS as their back end, which is great. So I have students that are also out of the country, and they Zoom in, we do our class, and then when they do their homework, they use whatever AWS lab is, data center, that's closest to them. So that way they get the best speed, and also Azure as well. So labs on AWS and Azure, so no more expensive on-prem equipment. So NetLab, nobody has that here, but NetLab is probably not happy about, switching to something like that. So what about artificial intelligence? You probably have heard, maybe you've even gone to some breakout sessions about artificial intelligence. When it comes to teaching, artificial intelligence cannot replace the instructor. You think that it could, some people think that it could, some people think that it will, but for the foreseeable future, it is not going to replace the instructor. AI is wrong a lot. I signed up for the ChatGPT, the $20 a month thing. I ask it questions all the time, and things don't always go as you expect. It can be a tool to assist the instructor, however, which I'm going to give you a few examples here in a minute. This is one of the big things right here, and this could cripple AI. The New York Times, I believe is who it was, is suing OpenAI, which is the starter, of ChatGPT. The Microsoft bought into it, the whole thing. They get all their information from whatever's online. A lot of that stuff is copywritten. Well, you can't take copywritten, material and then, use it for this kind of thing. Sometimes it's word for word copywritten material when you ask it a question. So the New York Times and a whole bunch of other publishers are correct in saying this is really not a good idea. So that may have a long-term effect on the usefulness for AI when it comes especially to teaching. How many of us have had this problem where you receive a paper from a student, you go, well, did AI write this? I'll put it through an AI checker. It says that it did, AI did write it, and it turns out that it really didn't. The student wrote it themselves. That's a real concern, is you're accusing students of something and you have no real way of proving it, because these AI checkers are not that good. Examples of AI as a teaching system. So although I've bagged on AI, it doesn't mean that we can't use it in our future teaching. And I've got a couple of different examples of how we can do that. You've got students with accessibility issues. I've had people who are just flat out can't see a thing. It's just black. I've had people who are, of course, deaf. I mean, all of us have had people with accessibility issues. And they can provide additional support for students with disabilities. The current voice-to-text and text-to-voice is not very good. You need AI to filter out the stuff that they don't need to hear. There's a lot of different pieces of a website. If you have text-to-voice or voice-to-text, there's a lot of pieces of a website that it's just a waste of their time. So AI could definitely make that a lot better. Another one would be struggling students. AI can assess their progress and adapt the difficulty of the tasks. So again, we haven't incorporated this yet, but this is something that we could use AI for, and that is, they can assess the students. I don't know if you've ever taken a Microsoft or a Novell test back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they had adaptive tests, where if you got a question wrong, it would give you 2 easier questions, and maybe you didn't quite understand the hard question, and then move you back into the hard questions again. That's an adaptive test, and we've been doing them for a long time. AI can make these a lot better. And we've got tutoring. Who's short of tutors at their schools? Right? You guys aren't short of tutors in your schools? A little bit, okay. We're always short of tutors at our schools. And if the tutors are students who have never taken the classes that the other students are coming up to ask them about, then there's no way of helping them, right? So AI can definitely help out with tutoring. Why not? All right, so this is a teaching idea, and one of our clients, one of our schools, gave us this idea, and then he did a little demonstration of it. It was a great idea. So one of the problems with step-by-step labs is all you've proven is you know how to follow step-by-steps, right? You need to have a challenge lab, a bonus lab, where you give them the idea and say, here's something complex you need to do, give me screenshots of it, but I'm not going to give you any directions. They could use AI for that. It could definitely help them without giving them all of the answers on how to do it. So these challenge labs will help them prove themselves. And it's a little bit like math in high school or junior high. Some of the math teachers said, you can't use a calculator because you never have a calculator in the real world. Baloney! We got calculators everywhere. You need to learn how to use the calculator. That's what's going on here. You need to learn how to use AI, and then you can solve a lot more complex problems than if you didn't have it. Give them the calculator, that's what I say. Go ahead. So, other things that we're looking at Ascend Education, doing research on, is online group projects that are more equitable. Group projects are terrible to begin with, right? Students don't like them, but they have to learn how to work with others. We have to give them group projects on certain classes. And in order to do that, we have to make them equitable, because you always have one student doing the most of the work, right? And then you have other students that may do little or almost none. I remember I was at a new hire training. So I used to be the IT manager for PricewaterhouseCoopers back in the late 90s. And so they sent us off to new hire training, and they said, we need to make sure that you understand, you're still in a probation period here, all the people that showed up. You need to make sure you understand how to work with others. So they broke us up into groups of 5 or 6, that kind of thing. And they each gave us all our different assignments. And then we worked on them a couple of days, and then it was our turn. So we stood up. There was about 150 people, all the new hires and all the managers and everything like that. And so there were 6 of us, I guess, in a row. And so they said, well, you go ahead and do the intro, and then we'll do our part of the project. I said, okay. So I introduced the team. And as I was introducing the team and what our project was, the other 5 students did this. They started walking backwards until they were out of view. I ended up having to do the entire project or presentation for all of us, because they all got scared because there were so many people and they'd never done that in front of that many people before. And so they all ran away. So they did not pass that particular. So online group projects that are equitable is going to be something we're looking into to make sure everybody's pulling the weight. Online games to solve problems. You probably have heard about this math folding problem that scientists were having a hard time with. They put it out online as a game to try to get gamers to solve it. They couldn't solve this thing for years or decades. It's an unbelievable amount of time and scientists that were working on it. Gamers solved it in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That's the kind of stuff that you can use to learn, but still have a good time. You get your brain, really working, because you have all that dopamine going and things. You can accomplish more when you're enjoying what you're doing, and that's one of the things that we're looking into. More strategic on-campus classes. I just said we got rid of campus classes, right? Wrong. Some classes need to come back to on-campus. One of those would be help desk. I've taught help desk online before, and it's not that easy. Help desk is better if you have a group of students, a couple of people talking to each other in a scenario, other students able to interject and ask questions. It's just really hard to do online. That's just one example. There's other classes I can think of. Dr. Kara, you have an example of a class you think should come back?
I mean, a lot of our networking classes.
Networking, yeah. You can't teach cabling remotely very well. That's a good example. So certain classes need to come back on campus, and we need to learn how to teach them the right way. Interactive videos. There's a new company that's out that is allowing you to assign a video, watching a video for a student, and part of the homework for that will be that student, typing in interactive comments, while the video is going on. You can do it either as a group or as an individual. That's kind of a cool new technology that's coming out. Digitizing handwriting for those who have motor skills issues. That's been around a long time, but I think that we can use AI to even make that better as well. Here are some of the different companies I've been researching to add in to our courses. So you want to look into these for you as well. Some of these companies do exactly what I'm talking about here and some of the other examples that I gave you. And incorporating those in, I think, is a very exciting thing, that you can possibly do. Now, Ascend Education does a lot of certification courses. So if you haven't gotten one of these, definitely take a look at it. So A+, Net+, Security+, CISA+, a lot of CompTIA courses. I mean, there's a whole list of CompTIA courses in here. Then we've got several Azure ones as well, AWS, and other ones that are coming soon. So there's a lot of pros for certification courses. College credit, as well as industry certification credit, 2 for 1. You got more attractive to students if they're deciding on which college to pick. Then you've got high school students can earn college credit along with certification. You doing any of that?
No, not as
Yeah, okay. Hey, you might want to look into it. Additional useful skills are learned, and certs may be transferable to other colleges. So there's many different colleges that are accepting certifications, industry certifications, for credit at that college or university. And it's easier to get hired. You both have a degree and you have certifications, it's easier to get hired. But there are some cons, and I'm going to tell you how we can overcome them. But let's take a look at the cons. Teaching to certifications may be too narrowly focused. So if all you do is teach to a certification, and you're not really teaching all the other stuff, all the great stories that you may have happened in your careers, all the stuff that AI can't figure out, then it could be too narrowly focused. It doesn't necessarily prepare you for real world situation. So the question is, if these certification tests don't really prepare us, who makes these tests? We put that question to Microsoft, and Microsoft said, our sales team creates the certification questions. Yeah. Now they have technical people, make sure that they're accurate, but at least in Microsoft, I don't know about all the other ones, but at least in Microsoft, the sales team makes the certification questions. May not provide a needed context. Well, I gave you a great example with that, the virus. So with the certification tests, the context may be missing about how you're going to apply that information. And it may be too difficult for students to pass. A lot of these tests have a pass rate, a first-time pass rate of 15%. That can discourage people, and it could end up costing them a lot of money as well. So these tests are expensive. What's the A+ up to now, like $500 or something like that?
It's like $250, right? $230 something for each half.
For each, and there's two of them, right?
There's two halves.
Yeah. I took the A+ in the 90s. I was one of the first people to take it. I was actually, my number is like 780 or something like that. Took it in the Des Plaines office in Chicago. At the time I lived in the Chicago suburbs. And it was interesting. I just, how nowadays they have security, they got cameras, you got everything. I just walked into this storefront and I said, here to take the test, here's my ID. And they said, okay, sit down there and take the test. I just took the test. That was it. Now, of course, it's a whole other experience. All right, so Ascend Education has some solutions to some of these cons and mixes in the pros with this. Ebooks written by professors and real-world sysadmins. So I'm happy to say that Dr. Kara has actually written one of our courses, our Microsoft Office Specialist course. So I did not plan that, she didn't know she was going to be here, but and students are learning from the course that she wrote. So there you go. So professors and real-world sysadmins, so people who have experience doing this as well, are writing our course. Lots of great context and examples. So when we state something, when you state a fact, you should also back it up with an example and maybe a source for that fact. So it's not just how to pass the certification, you're also going to see some great examples that go along with it. Written to provide experiences that students will face. So they're not going to just, get that information about the test, they're going to get information in video and book and all these different labs, of course. So that first day, your very first day on the job as an admin, you'll be able to say, yes, I know how to do that. My very first day, we called it IT administrator back then, but now we refer to it as sysadmin. But my very first day, I had my A+, I had several classes of community college behind me because there were no degrees in IT in the late 90s. It didn't exist. So the only place you could get any education was at the community college, because at the university level, they were only teaching programming. So I went through all this. I felt I really understood things. I had my A+ certification. I went in and they said, okay, here's your first job. Take this modem, because the 90s, take this modem and then put it into this compact computer, because it was before HP and Compaq got together. And then get this guy set up on America Online, because they didn't have high-speed internet back then. So I said, okay, I had done that. I knew how to install modem, I knew how to install AOL, I was good. The one thing I didn't know how to do is how to open up one of those compact computers. It took me a half an hour. I went to this cubicle where I was well hidden, and I was like pushing, sliding, moving. I couldn't figure out how to do it. Finally, after almost a half an hour, I finally pulled it off. Got the modem installed, got AOL installed, put it all back together. I don't know if anybody remembers those old compact computers and how difficult they were to get them up. And then got it going, and then the boss said, wow, that was really fast, good job. And I was like, well, I could have done it a lot faster. All right, quiz is based only on the text in the ebook. So sometimes you're going to see certain classes where they create these quizzes, but they're not based on the book that you've given them to read. They're based on things all over the internet, and some are not well written. So what we do is we just create the quizzes based on the ebooks. And then they're peer reviewed. So it's not just the professor or the SME writing this information, then somebody has to look at it. So we have somebody make sure it's accurate, make sure that the information is not duplicated, make sure the questions are written properly and the answers are there. So it's all peer reviewed. And it's broken out into teachable modules. This is a big one, because this is written in a way to be taught either, some courses that are designed for high school, but most of them are written for the college level. And they're broken out into teachable modules, rather than really heavy in the first module and really light in the second one and then medium in the third one. No, there's typically 8 to 10 modules to sort of mimic what a term would be or a semester would be, depending if you want to go weekly or or spread it out into 2 weeks. And it makes it in a way that's much easier to teach because it's written by people who do this. All right, so here are some of the things that that we do, that we teach. There's this modern network design is all about what's in the current network. When I first started in IT, I had a lot of missing information about what a modern network looked like. And so what I like to show here is that we cover a lot of different parts of a modern network in these various different courses. So that way you get a very good overall view as a student, when you take these courses. So you can kind of zoom through it a little bit. So we've got the layer 3 switches, the layer 2 switches. That should make Cisco happy. You've got firewalls and connections out to the internet. Learning how to set up firewalls, or the security part of firewalls is important. Then we've got Windows security. We've got Linux. We've got Linux Plus course as well. Show you how to set up Active Directory, DHCP, DNS. File and print using iSCSI. Of course, iSCSI and clustering is a big part of it. Email servers, not themselves, but connecting to the email server is covered in several of the courses. VPNs, of course, especially in the Security Plus. And Wi-Fi, we've got 2 Wi-Fi courses from Planet 3, which is the biggest certification provider. Network printing, of course, everybody hates network printing, but you got to learn how to do it, right? It's covered heavily in the A+ and some other courses as well. And let's keep going, of course, new technologies for connecting out to other offices. So instead of just using traditional VPN, which we also teach, you're also going to learn about new things like SD-WAN connections, where the ISP itself does all of the VPN tunneling for you. VPN to remote offices, cloud servers, and PCs and mobile devices. Can't forget those. So we can, of course, cover all different types of PCs and mobile devices. Yep.
Do you simulate like an iOS or an Android interface? Do you have anything like that?
We don't have that as of yet. Mostly, at this point, most of our courses are going to be designed for CompTIA and Microsoft, but the mobile devices are covered in the books, but we don't have the labs for them yet. Am I wrong about that?
In the 8+, some of the simulated labs in the hardware section do cover.
Oh, they do cover that? Okay.
Some of that.
Then she knew something I didn't. Very good.
Yeah.
Do you have any module or complete program under wireless communication that includes Wi-Fi, mobile network, satellite system?
Yes. So the CWS and the CWT are certifications.
And certified?
Yeah, CWS is more designed for high school, and CWT, so you got CWT, Certified Wireless Technician.
I am familiar.
Okay, yeah,
you
so we
own
have
the product?
We have those.
We have courses that train for those certifications.
Yeah, and
Yes. There are labs for them as well.
And that CWT, there are different rank, like technician, analyst, admins. Is that the same line of product?
Yeah, it's the same line. Yeah, it's
Okay.
the same line.
Okay, so I'm interested.
Yeah, yeah. And then the CWS, like I said, more of the high school. It's a little bit lower. Well, sometimes you say higher level because it's easier. But yeah, it's more designed for high school. CWT more for college. So, thank you for that question. Other questions that you might have, I'm ready for you.
So
I have
let me
two people to
follow
back
up-
me up.
Let me follow up on that quickly before I forget. So, can that be adopted to a university course?
It is a complete course. Ready, if you purchase this course, it is a university course ready to go with everything you need. Videos, book, labs, the quizzes, the whole thing.
What's the price per student?
So that's at the 130?
$129.
$129.95. Almost $130.
And all of our licensing is for a full 12 months, and it's per student. So, yeah, we work with school bookstores, or some departments pay for codes and, give them to students, or they can purchase directly from us.
And by any chance, do you have any like hard copy for demo here?
How much time do we have left? Because we may be able to do a demo for
We
you.
only have like 3 minutes.
3 minutes left. Okay, well, you can, if you...
We have
Yeah.
our table too
Yes.
out there.
So Megan is
Sure.
part of sales. I'm more development. So if you have a question, hey, can you develop a class? You tell me what your idea is, and we can tell you if we can develop it. Jake is in marketing, but yes, Megan will be out there as soon as we're done in the next couple minutes, and she can set up a demo for you remotely.
Sure.
And I apologize, I went a little bit long. I was going to have Meg do the demo for us, but so I get caught up in my story sometimes. Any other last minute questions?
So Robert, correct me if I'm wrong, the course that you're offering, or a number of courses through your educational institution, are they all, they could all be taken remotely online?
Yes, you can teach them on.
There's no hands-on, so there's a lot of advantages to that.
Yeah.
A lot of people logistically don't want to deal with, driving in, to be on site, to be in a physical lab, to do the physical hands-on work.
Right. I still do the lectures. I do them either on campus or online. But the students can do their work anytime, anywhere they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big advantage, especially right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got to go back into the classroom again next Thursday. First time since last year ago spring. But it's the same class that I would teach if I was doing it on Zoom. It's just you get a little better feedback because you can see the students and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure why some of the classes ever come back in if they don't need to. But I think is there a military requirement? Yeah, sort of a lot of the vets, they require some on campus.
Yeah.
For
Well,
that.
some students want to be on campus.
Oh, you're right.
It's a smaller percentage, but,
You're right.
so I teach my classes in a format where they have the choice of either attending in person or online
So a
at the same
hybrid.
time. Yeah, so it's a
Yeah, yeah, we do that,
hybrid
we do that sometimes too, it's a great idea.
model, so
Yeah.
that way that, I can meet the need of the few that want to be on campus and
Well, look at
Fill
you,
the class with
you're a
the majority.
futuristic professor, there you
been
go.
doing it a while.
We're always looking good for good, people who are interested in being subject matter experts. So if there is a particular class that you might be interested in creating for Ascend Education, I would love it if you give your card to Megan or to Jake and our WWE. Did you show your muscles yet? So yeah, if you're interested in writing a course, we're always looking, for great new subject matter experts. So feel free to give us your information as well. Any other questions?
Yeah, quick question. So, do any of your courses offer life cycle?
Life cycle as far as you mean upgrading as?
Yeah, just life cycle of a product or support service through like an IT organization and a large corporate institution somewhere. Like taking delivery of a product, X amount of servers
Right.
you purchase, you picking them up off the picking the assets up off the shipping dock, the manual labor.
I teach
kind of
one
stuff.
course on occasion when this college needs me. I call it How to Be an IT Consultant, or How to Be a Consultant. It's not always just IT. And what we do in that class is life cycle, management,
There you go.
including the a government document that is an Excel spreadsheet that you're supposed to follow to see what your return on investment is.
Exactly.
And I've used that with clients in the past where I'd say, hey, here's your good, better, best scenario. The good will be the cheapest, but it'll get the job done. The best would, 5 years from now when you're ready to retire this equipment, this is how much less you'll have to pay, even though it's more on the front end.
Yeah.
And so, that I do teach that. We don't have a course for it, but if you want to write it.
No. It's just that a lot of the students or younger people or young, whatever the case may be, they've never really experienced their first real job.
Right.
And they don't understand like the whole asset management.
It's a great
piece,
idea.
The procurement piece, they don't understand that
Yeah.
piece at all. And it's a huge piece that they're, a ticket gets
Sure.
dumped on them for service now, and they just don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
They never have any exposure to it, so.
No, it's a great idea. And like I said, I do teach it on occasion, but we don't have a course for it as of yet. I guess we have to figure out how to package that. But yeah, that sounds great. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for that.
Enjoy your lunch.